All right, we're live. So welcome back to Dapp University. So things are looking pretty rough out there in the crypto markets. And in this video, I want to talk about a leading indicator that a lot of people are watching out for to determine like how bad is this going to get and what I think about that. We're going to look at that and a lot of other news that's happened in the space since yesterday. So before we get into that, if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you will learn how to become a blockchain master step-by-step from start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. All right, so we got people jumping in the chat here. We got Culture Hives, Charles, Operation 1620, Chaos, G-Main, Jacqueline. Welcome. All right, so let's jump in here. So yeah, also if you're just catching back up, we started up the live streams again this week. I took a week off last week. This was a planned thing. We're back in full force now, so we're doing these, trying to get back on our schedule. We'll start a little bit late here today, but trying to get closer back to 9:30 in the morning. So thanks for your patience, and let's jump in and get started. So let's take a look at the crypto charts because, of course, this is not looking good for Bitcoin or ETH right now, right? So Bitcoin, we're seeing it drop down to $31,806. ETH's dropping down to about $2,300, right? About that price range. So I want to talk about a leading indicator right now that I think a lot of people are watching out for to determine what's going to happen with the cryptocurrency prices next, okay? And that's basically the death cross that's happening on the charts. So as always on this channel, I'm fully transparent with you. I'm not a big TA person and that I'm not very skilled in technical analysis. If you want to look at other crypto channels, there's lots of people out there who are great at that. Highly recommend Into the Cryptoverse. I've talked to Ben over there. I know him. So he's a great channel, definitely watch out for us. We're going to talk about some opinions on that here in a minute. But the death cross is definitely something that people are keeping an eye on. So what is that? If you're brand new, you don't know what that is. So basically, this is a technical indicator on the chart where you look at different moving averages for cryptocurrency prices. Specifically, people are watching Bitcoin. I'll show you what I'm talking about right here. And basically where the short-term moving average and the long-term moving averages basically cross one another to the downsides. People talk about the death cross, okay? So basically, if you take Bitcoin's price and you calculate the average moving price over a certain time frame, maybe it's the 50-week or 50-day, depending on whatever your time frame you like to look at, versus a longer time frame, and then when these two things cross each other, it gives an indication of which directions Bitcoin's velocity is really headed towards. So this death cross is probably going to happen. This is what people are talking about a lot. Probably in the next week or so, at least it's what's most likely to happen, okay? Because Bitcoin had to move quite a bit to the upside in order to kind of do a fake out and not quite hit that death cross. It would have to move up pretty fast significantly. It's probably not going to happen. And so I think this is something people are watching out for to determine, like, hey, are we in a mini bear market, a long-term bear market? Also, the other thing to think about the death cross is it's kind of a lagging indicator in that it's quite a bit behind what's actually currently happening with Bitcoin, because we're talking about moving averages here, and it takes time for those moving averages to get calculated. So this is something people are definitely watching out for. And in some cases, this can become a self-fulfilling prophecy because people are just watching, waiting for it to happen, and they know that the price can't quite go up as fast to do a fake out or something like that. But that's definitely something to watch out for. So what do I think about this? Do I think it's a short-term bear market? Do I think it's a long-term bear market? Are we still in the middle of a bull cycle here? So, of course, it's always not financial advice. Let's just talk about what my personal actions are. Of course, so I'm not buying the dip. I'm not just like rushing in here to, scoop up coins at a discount, because the risk reward scenario for me to do something like that, it's not really worth it, right? Like I bought into Bitcoin, Ether, my other holdings, mostly in 2020, some before then, a little bit at the beginning of 2021. And at this point, it doesn't make sense for me to just like try to scoop up coins at a discount because of the uncertainty that lies in the market, in my opinion, over the next several months. Okay. So as far as like selling, I haven't taken any cryptocurrency off the table. I haven't sold any cryptocurrency really in the last year. Okay. So that's, I'm not selling, I'm basically just holding through this. And let's see, hold on a second, notification come up. So yeah, I'm not selling anything. But that being said, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with the price, short to midterm. And that's exactly why I don't plan on buying anymore. Okay. If I thought we were just totally, full on bull after this, then maybe that would be a chance to buy more. But I do have, a certain amount of certainty there, which would make me not want to do that. So one possibility, let's talk about what could be in play here. because I see people throwing these different charts around, right? If you're sort of a fan of thinking that, crypto markets are heavily manipulated, I do see a lot of talk of like, I forget how you actually say this, like the Wyckoff or Wyckoff distribution, okay? How basically we saw Bitcoin kind of go through this. And some people are saying we could be in that accumulation phase of this, right? Where basically we saw the Bitcoin price go up and kind of play out this pattern, okay? So again, I'm not a big technical analysis guy. I'm not very skilled at this type of thing, but this is just something I see floating around there online where Bitcoin's price is kind of playing out in this pattern. And if it is, then we could be on the other side of this, all right? When you see this on the chart here, kind of on the downside of this, we're in this accumulation phase where it could snap back up after this. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is that we are in sort of a miniature bear market in the middle of a longer uptrend. Now, you could almost always say that depending on, like if you just count the beginning of Bitcoin's life to where we are now, you could say, oh, these are all just mini bear markets. But I mean, mini bear market is something that lasts for, maybe a few months or less than a year. We see that trend play out in smaller cryptocurrencies like DeFi, mini bear markets before they sort of entered a bull market phase again. And so the last possibility I want to talk about here, aside from being a long-term bear market, I talked about Ben over Into the Cryptoverse earlier. Definitely a great channel. Go check him out if you haven't already. Like I said, we've kind of talked some. His sort of thesis is talking about longer Bitcoin cycles with diminishing returns. So if you go look at all of the past Bitcoin bull markets, if you plot them out, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, then you see like the amount of time from the beginning of that bull market to the peak getting longer, okay? And if that pattern continues, then the cycle that we're in right now would completely blow that trend, and that it would be very short compared to the last cycle before this one. Now, some of that could depend on when you measure it, all that type of stuff, but that would invalidate that possibility. And the diminishing returns look consistent, but the length of the cycle. So, if he's right on that type of thing, then we could definitely see this sort of price correction here. This could be a long-term, not long-term, so an elongated dip, so to speak, inside of this longer trend upward. And we could see, as he thinks, this continue into 2022 with a much more shallow, more gradual rise past this. But there might be more pain ahead. So those are my thoughts on the current situation, what I'm personally doing, and some things to watch out for. So now let's talk about, actually, before we do that, let's just check on the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, because there's another thing that I wanted to show you. Let's see here. So the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index is a social sentiment analyzer that basically says, hey, how do people online feel about the current Bitcoin price? Because we talk about, something on, fear on one side versus greed on the other that can kind of help you gauge market sentiment. People talk about the sentiment of, or people talk about the idea of being fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. Well, this can help you measure that type of thing. And right now we're in extreme fear. Now, an important lesson in the crypto markets is you can't just systematically be greedy when others are fearful, right? Because you would buy every bear market that dropped by 90% all the way down because people were fearful all the way down. Or you might buy every single cryptocurrency that ever went to zero. Okay, so you can't systematically do that, right? It's not that easy. But this will help you kind of feel out where we are. Now, when we crashed, initially, the initial impulse that kind of triggered out this bear trend, however long it is, short term, long term, we dropped quite a bit. And the fear index was at like 7 or something like that. It's one of the lowest I've ever seen in crypto. It's also the worst crash that I've personally ever seen in crypto in percentage terms, I think. So in that amount of time. So that's where we are with the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. Now, one thing that's pretty cool that I saw come out yesterday, maybe the day before here, is they actually released an Ethereum Fear and Greed Index. Okay, so this will be cool, especially if we have the possibility of, ETH becoming a number one cryptocurrency over time. This will be an important indicator to have. How do people feel about the Ether price? And I feel like that's kind of what's going on here. We're preparing ourselves for that possibility. Or at least acknowledging the fact that the market sentiment for Ethereum is important for, or Ether is important for the overall cryptocurrency markets, because we'll have to kind of rethink that, right? If we do see a category shift in the number one cryptocurrency, and one cryptocurrency kind of becoming an index for the overall marketplace, then this would be an important indicator to look at as well. So currently the Ethereum Fear and Greed Index is at 33. Okay, so it's not as bad as Bitcoin. Okay. So we also have, yesterday we were better. We were at 43. It was more neutral, all right, when this first came out, but it's definitely gone down since then. So let's talk about some potentially bullish things for crypto coming up down the pike. All right, so that's the bad news for the current situation in the market. But let's talk about some potential bullish catalysts coming up down the road. Now, yesterday in our live stream, I did talk about Ethereum potentially flipping Bitcoin. What has to happen for that to take place? Talk about all the sort of bullish things that are on balance for ETH compared to Bitcoin, right? And how if you weigh out those two scales, then what's happening on Ethereum seems to be just disproportionate to what's happening on Bitcoin. And some of that's by design. I mean, Bitcoin is sort of a one-trick pony. It doesn't really have active development over time, depending on your philosophical stance on these different blockchains. That's a feature, not a bug. But that does mean that we have all this stuff, really concentrated on ETH as opposed to Bitcoin. But I want to talk about some bullish stuff for Bitcoin right now that could be some fuel to this fire that it needs to, gain some tailwind and push further, because we did see institutional adoption of cryptocurrency, corporate treasuries buying Bitcoin for their balance sheet earlier this year. And now we see an entirely new dynamic to this space that I don't think a lot of people saw coming, to tell you the truth, okay? And that's basically developing different countries adopting Bitcoin as actual legal tender, okay? So this is big because we talk about, Bitcoin's becoming reserve currencies for different national currencies, but we're actually starting to see this as actual legal tender within these countries here. So let me just pull this on my screen here. So I'll talk about this briefly in the live stream yesterday, but we can go in depth on it. And I want to bring it up now. So El Salvador looks to become the world's first country to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. Okay, so basically this means that you could spend Bitcoins. You can use it for all different types of things. So we also saw other countries follow suit here. I believe it's Panama and Paraguay. So if you let me know in the chat down below if you notice any other countries. But I did see that come up yesterday, and this is a really interesting dynamic because, like I said, think about things that Bitcoin needs to basically have bullish catalysts for the price motion to continue. This is definitely a dynamic that kind of came out that I think a lot of people weren't talking about or weren't necessarily seeing, because we saw these things like, like I said, corporate treasuries buying Bitcoin for their balance sheet. You see things like the Coinbase IPO that was coming out. We still have, possible Bitcoin ETF looming on the horizon. Of course, it would take some time for something like that to come out. But now we see, this kind of new dynamic that I think people didn't really factor in. Okay, and that wasn't something that people had anticipation of to sort of price in ahead of time. Okay, so we could see this have some positive impact on the market. Of course, time will tell. So that's definitely a bullish thing, and we could see more countries follow suit. All right, we could see countries that get a big benefit out of this, start initially, and then more people kind of jump on that train. So they got any questions here in the chat? This is what it says, bull market over. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Somebody says bull is definitely on pause for sure. Watch what happens when all countries now stop accepting the dollar instead. Let's see here. Yeah, hold. Yeah. Somebody says multi-year bear market. I mean, I doubt it, really. Like, that is my position. Like, multi-year, bad, terrible bear market like we saw last time, I doubt it. Time will tell for sure. But like I said, even if we do enter that type of thing, my personal position is I would just hold through that because of my long-term stance on cryptos. Somebody says all of June is going to suck. It might. So let's talk about another thing yesterday that I think kind of panicked the markets, because let's just see here. Let me pull up my screen. I don't think this was a widespread panic, but I had some concern about this. So I wanted to talk about it. So there was some news about the Colonial Pipeline ransom, all right, where they received payment in Bitcoin and those funds were actually recovered by the authorities. And so some people were thinking like, hey, was Bitcoin was Bitcoin's encryption compromised for people to take, funds from a Bitcoin wallet? So let's just step through this, because I think that got some people scared, thinking, oh, Bitcoin's not safe anymore because I can't custody my own funds. So let's actually step through this. So government officials did not specify the exact method to seize the funds from the ransomware group. Okay, so that's the first thing you don't exactly know how to recover the funds. There's some speculation about this. Some people think like, oh, hey, maybe the funds were sent to an exchange, right? And then the exchange like freeze the accounts, or were able to recover the funds that way. Or maybe like the funds were held in some sort of custodial wallet where the private key was actually able to be obtained by some sort of backdoor through that custodial service, right? Where you have to comply with governments in order to get that, if they have some sort of a warrant. So we don't have all the details on this, right? But I'm going to tell you about like what's technically possible. So those would basically calm the fears of people who think that Bitcoin's encryption somehow got compromised in order to take funds from, or recover the funds in this case. Okay. So why is this very likely not to happen? Well, Bitcoin encryption is insanely hard to crack for someone to just like, essentially guess your private key and, use your funds from your wallet. Okay. It's absolutely insanely hard to crack. And if you were going to do that, if you did somehow have the sophisticated computing power and ability to do that, why would you use it on this? Okay. Because you would have so many other like major fish that you could go after. And at that point you would show your cards and like you would reveal to the world that you now had this ability. Right. So if you were able to do that, you probably wouldn't use it for this particular purpose, especially if you're a government. Like, so if you could crack, the nuclear codes on some, foreign government or something like that, like you're probably not gonna just like go take somebody's Bitcoin back when you could use it for something else. Okay. It's a pretty small fish on the grand scheme of things compared to what you can likely use that power for. So that's why I think that, Bitcoin's encryption hasn't been cracked in this particular case. These funds are probably recovered through some sort of custodial means where they basically had to comply with people who were responsible for custodying that particular Bitcoin. So of course we don't have all the details here. Time will tell, but those are my initial thoughts on the matter. Somebody said they bought a bike. Awesome. So we saw another tweet thread come about this yesterday, because some people were saying, oh, they thought that Coinbase did this. Okay. So this was from Philip Martin. Let me just pull up the screen here. So he's the CSO at Coinbase. All right. So he says, I've seen a bunch of incorrect claims that Coinbase was involved in the recent Department of Justice seizure of Bitcoin associated with the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack. They weren't. So he has a thread here. He says, Coinbase was not the target of the warrant and did not receive the ransom or any part of the ransom at any point. We have no evidence that the funds went through Coinbase wallet or account. So they're looking at the BitQuery graphs, and some people are saying that the Coinbase, as it appears to be a reference to concept rather than the company. So there's some people analyzing this and saying it went to Coinbase, the place, and not Coinbase, like the wallet. So like if you mine and you have a Coinbase account, that's essentially where the mining rewards go. So some people get that confused, and they thought it actually went to Coinbase, the exchange, not Coinbase, like the concept on the blockchain. So they're just proving that Coinbase basically had no had no part in this particular event. So we got a question in the chat here. Somebody says, always sell low and buy high. Yeah, that's the exact opposite. I've been there, though. I've done it. Somebody says, at what stage will ETH overtake BTC? So that's a good question. I mean, Again, this is something that I always talk about the possibility of happening. I don't necessarily guarantee that this is going to happen. It does seem like a likely thing over time, and if it does pass, we don't know if it's going to be a long-term thing. So a lot of that's just got to do with what you can do with Ether. And if we do have part of cryptocurrency's actual value proposition as, the more people use the cryptocurrency, that the value can actually accrue to the asset itself because of supply and demand, right? Then there's more reasons to want to hold Ether than hold Bitcoin. All right, now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of, one of the biggest reasons to use cryptocurrency in the first place is financial speculation, to use leverage, to trade with it, to try to catch the bull markets, bear markets, short it, make money with it however you can. That's probably one of the biggest use cases. And that's when you see these big bubbles happen, okay? But still, underneath that, there's still a base set of use cases where value is actually accruing, all right? And they may not be as big as the financial speculation use case right now. That's why you can see, 60% drawbacks, because that means at least 60% is probably going towards the financial speculation side of things. But you're still listening to this base underneath of value that's accruing to the actual assets itself. And there's more reasons why you might flock to Ethereum for that type of thing rather than Bitcoin. You can stake it, you can use it in DeFi, you can, like I said, use it as collateral for lending, all that type of stuff. You can pay for transactions on the Ethereum network with it. Bitcoin, you can basically just hold it, send it around, pay for transactions. That's about it. Somebody says, what are the chances we're not able to scale Ethereum? What happens to ETH 2.0 if ETH 2.0 transition fails? So, that's a good question. Like everything that's on the bleeding edge of technology, there are no guarantees, right? But have a high degree of confidence in what ETH 2.0 is doing. As far as the scalability types thing goes, you're going to see that pretty soon with layer 2 that's rolling out pretty heavily right now. We've got Arbitrum basically in the middle of their soft launch to mainnet. They're currently actually deploying Uniswap version 3. It's currently just being whitelisted, so it's not totally available for the public yet. But as soon as that stuff is really turned on, we can start using it. I think people are going to start to see what the scaling looks like. We don't have to wait for ETH 2.0 to get here in order to achieve those types of scaling benefits. So let's see here. So it says, I am 12 years old and I want to become a blockchain master Dapp developer. That's awesome. Well, the good news is you have a lot of time to your advantage. So I would give you the same advice like I give everybody else. Definitely learn by doing. So you can go to my YouTube homepage, finding my free tutorials there, like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. Just grab one of those, learn the programming language as you go, and try to think of something that you want to build for yourself with blockchain after that. And yeah, if you're 12 and you're not in school this summer, and assuming you're in the Northern Hemisphere, then you've got some good time on your hands to get your hands dirty. Somebody says Trump FUD, the dollar ain't backed by anything but an IOU. So we did see this come out the other day. So we saw Donald Trump talk about Bitcoin yesterday. So let's see if my ad blocker actually let me look at this. Or was it yesterday? It was recently. So June 7th, which was, yesterday. Sometimes my days kind of, get mixed up here. But he basically just said, yeah, Bitcoin, crypto, just seems like a scam. Awesome. And then the person in the comment section here said, but the dollar's not backed by anything. Yeah, so his comments were basically like, we want the dollar to be. No, I should just pull up and read his statements here, so I'm not getting him wrong. So Trump doubled down on his criticism against crypto during an interview with Stuart Varney on Fox Business Network. Asked his thoughts on Bitcoin, the ex-president said he doesn't like it. Quotation marks. Seems like a scam, emphasizing his belief that the currency of the world should be the dollar. So that's what he's talking about here. He's really pro-dollar. And he sees Bitcoin as, I guess, anti-dollar in that way. ALC called for greater monitoring cryptocurrency, said they should be regulated very, very high. Awesome. Somebody says Trump's lying. He has Bitcoin. Somebody says, which phase are we in? Wyckoff or Wyckoff, however you want to say that. So, I don't know, to tell you the truth. This is just a theory that I'm seeing floating around online about this particular distribution. This is just a possibility on the table. And I think a lot of people were saying that we'd be kind of in the last phase of this accumulation or somewhere in this accumulation pattern. Time will tell. So let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to read questions in the chat. It's moving so fast. So do I yield farm at all? Yeah, I definitely do some yield farming. Yeah, I'm trying to pause the spam. Sorry, everybody. Somebody says, I'm worried about USDT. Can you please shine some light on it? So a lot of people basically have the fear that Tether's still not really backed fully. And some people say, well, it's not a fear, it's a fact because of their reportings. I don't have a strong opinion on the matter. Buy Doge. So let's actually see how Dogecoin's doing here. So Doge is 30 cents. Okay. Where did Doge peak at? Doge peaked around 71 cents. Ouch. Somebody says it isn't yield farming flash loans. So that's not the same thing. So what is yield farming? People don't know. So basically this is it means a couple different things. So basically it means taking your cryptocurrency and parking it into DeFi apps where you earn yield or earn, some sort of APY. And sometimes this APY is denominated in the cryptocurrency that you deposited, and sometimes it's like with multiple cryptocurrencies. So I'll show you on my browser here real quick. Like one really simple example of yield farming is like with an app like Compound Finance, for example. So I'll just show you my screen. Oops, sorry. If you look at, Compound, this is an app powered by smart contracts. You can put cryptocurrencies in here. Like you can put DAI in here, stable cryptocurrencies, prices and change. If you can earn 2% on your DAI, which in crypto terms is kind of low. These rates change for sure. But you can earn an extra cryptocurrency on top of that, which is, Compound's own token, as long as their Compound rewards are there. And so you can factor that into your yield. So maybe that takes your yield up several percentage points. Now, yield farming really is about kind of chasing the highest yields and moving from app to app whenever those yields change. Okay, so like you find where the best yield is, you take your funds out of one app and you move them into another one. You're chasing the highest yields. You have to calculate those yields. Are they coming just from the currencies that you're depositing, or do they come from a bonus cryptocurrency? There's multiple strategies for this. You can supply, yield. You can supply currencies to any app that needs liquidity in order to run, any DeFi app like Compounds or Uniswap, where you become a liquidity provider, where you put in two different cryptocurrencies that they need to power that order book. Curve Finance, different stable coins, that they use to power their stablecoin exchange. On anything that needs liquidity inside the application to make it work, you can provide liquidity to that. You're incentivized by earning passive income, and you get that APY. That's the yield that you're farming in this case. And the farming really is about sort of like finding the highest returns and moving around. All right, everybody. So that's all I got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out so the more people can learn about blockchain. If you like these videos, you're as fascinated with this technology as I am, how can you get your hands dirty to get started today? You can go to my YouTube homepage. You can find my free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you like those and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, actually become a blockchain master step-by-step start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. All right. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.